On Larry King Now, New York Times best-selling author Harlan Coben.
I was working a job overseas and I said, I'd love to write a book about this experience. And so I started to. And it was pretentious and pompous and self-absorbed. But then I started to write what I love, and what I know you love is those books you can't put down, the novel of immersion, the book you take on vacation, but you don't want to leave your room. I know the beginning and I know the end. I know the last twist. And Safe, I think, has one of my best twists. You've read a lot of my books, you've been very kind over the years, so you know I work very hard on trying to end it on a surprise. I was talking to Stephen King about this. Stephen King, and he still feels the same way. We always think we suck. I mean, that's the thing. I said only bad writers think they're good. If you have a writer in here who tells you how great he is or how easy it is, he's lying or he's bad.
Plus, is Julia Roberts still on board?
Julia Roberts is still on board. You know this better than I do. They tell me very little, so I'm not paying much attention to it, but Julia called me the day the book came out.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now from New York City. Today I'm joined by New York Times best-selling novelist Harlan Coben. Harlan has sold more than 70 million books worldwide, including hits like Fool Me Once, Tell No One, and No Second Chance, just to name a few. He's also served as the creator and executive producer for several hit television series, the most recent of which is Safe, starring Michael C. Hall. Safe is out now on Netflix. And I understand this, Harlan, you did not write Safe?
I wrote the whole story behind Safe. I worked with a co-writer. We co-wrote it with a guy named Danny Brocklehurst, who's written Shameless and a number of really great UK shows. So it was a team effort. Yeah, it was great.
Why does it
But it was not a novel. It wasn't a novel before.
Why is it not a novel?
You know, sometimes you have an idea and you think, this would be great on the screen. It could have been a novel. But this was a big story. It's 4 families. It's a gated community. I was thinking about fences, and sometimes we try to build fences to keep the bad out. Sometimes we keep the bad in. And I just saw that in a kind of cool visual way, family barbecues, and then, of course, everything goes wrong.
Variety called it a slick portrait of one man's descent into a nightmare.
Yeah.
All of your works involve ordinary people who have disordinary things happen to them.
Yeah, in a sense, it's classically Hitchcockian with a very modern twist. But Michael, one of the things that appealed to Michael C. Hall, this is only the 3rd series Michael's done. He's done Dexter and 6 Feet Under. And the big appeal to him was, I get to be the ordinary guy. He's the dad. His wife has died. He's got 2 teenage children he doesn't know really how to handle. So he puts spyware on their phone just so he can keep a little bit of an eye on them. And once he does that, things go really wrong for him. But that's what I do, yeah.
Do you lay it all out before you write?
I know the beginning and I know the end. I know the last twist. And Safe, I think, has one of my best twists. You've read a lot of my books. You've been very kind over the years. So you know I work very hard on trying to end it on a surprise. So I know those 2 things. I compare it to traveling from here in New York to LA. I may go Route 80. Chances are I'll go via the Suez Canal or I'll stop in Tokyo. But I always get to LA.
Have there been times your book characters change?
The characters change. I go in a lot of unexpected places.
The plot changes?
But the ending always stays the same. It's kind of like, if you can imagine, if you're looking at this thing, this is my ending. I can move here, there, wherever. But as long as I keep my eye on the ending, I'm usually okay.
Do you surprise yourself?
Yeah, pretty frequently. I mean, those are the best moments. In fact, I did a recent adaptation of one of my older books, No Second Chance. So I had to reread it. I hadn't reread it since I wrote it in 2002 or 3. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a pretty good twist. I didn't quite see that one coming. Other times you hate it. But yeah, you have to surprise yourself.
What's it like working with Netflix?
They were great on this. I mean, I know that sounds like a cliche. They really let us do what we wanted to do. I told them what it was going to be. It's 8 episodes, 1 story. It's a total story. I didn't want one of those shows where you start the cool mystery, and at the end of the series, you don't know what happens, and you have to wait till next season. It's a closed story. I mean, we could maybe have a season 2. I don't think so, but I wanted it. That Jenny disappears, Chris dies in the very beginning, and you find out what happened and why. Yeah.
And you can watch all episodes in one sitting, if you want. An hour each?
45 minutes each.
Why'd you pick Michael C. Hall?
Well, I think Michael picked us as much as we picked him. When we heard he was a possibility, and then he read the script and was so enthusiastic about playing the role, we met for lunch in London, because we filmed the show in England. And he was just doing Lazarus, which is the David Bowie musical, which is really great. As soon as I knew we had a chance at Michael, I think he's one of the great actors that we have. He completely disappears in the role. I mean, people think of him as Dexter. If you think of it, before that, he was David Fisher on 6 Feet Under, completely different roles. And now again, in fact, I tease him that during the scenes when he had to be a little bit more action-oriented or violent, he was the least convincing because his character wouldn't be good at it. But I was thinking Dexter would have been really good at it. That's how much he kind of gets into a role.
What's it like for you as a writer being on a movie set?
You want to pretend you've had a lot of experience and you're jaded, but you probably know this, you get this, Larry. When you first walk on a set, and I'm watching 100 people putting this together, and I'm seeing Michael C. Hall, and we also have Amanda Abington from The Sherlock Show with Benedict Cumberbatch, and Audrey Fleurot, a famous French actress from Spiral. I'm watching them all put this together, and I start thinking, I had this little idea in my house in New Jersey, and here I am in Manchester, England, watching all these people put my world together. If you don't get jazzed about that, man, you are so in the wrong business. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Does that mean we're going to see more of you on TV with original series?
I hope so. I mean, I want to see how this goes. I did another show, which is also on Netflix right now, called The Five, British show that Netflix bought from Sky One, 10 episodes. I really love doing that too. I love telling stories. I mean, I want my book to be the book that you go to bed, it's 10 o'clock at night, I'm only going to read for 10 minutes, and then it's 4 in the morning and you're deliriously happy. And I want the TV show to do something similar. I want you to keep clicking.
Can you give me I haven't seen it yet,
Yeah.
Can you give me a clue, basically what happens to Michael C. Hall in Safe?
So Michael C. Hall plays a pediatric surgeon. As it opens, he's just become widowed. He has 2 children. We skip ahead a year. And he's trying to figure out what's going on with his daughter, who he's a little bit estranged from. She goes out to a teenage party. We see other people in town with kids. They all go to this teenage party, and something goes really wrong. The next day, 1 kid is dead, 1 kid is missing, and a whole town is about to explode with secrets. All in this tiny gated community that's why we call it Safe. You think you're safe in this kind of gated communities, but of course you're not.
Now, when you had the idea for this, you knew where it was going to end, you knew where it was going to begin. But you didn't know what happened in the middle.
Pretty much
Same
nothing.
as a book.
Pretty much nothing. I mean, I had to think it out. You know, the difference between TV and one of the differences between TV and books is, in a book, I'm just talking about myself. I'm everything: actor, director. I change light bulbs. I do the microphone. But TV is all about collaboration. So I had this whole idea. I had the beginning, the end. I had a lot of it, and then I would talk it out loud to my 2 guys.
Why did you need another writer?
I just don't have time, frankly. And also, Danny Brocklehurst is really good about structuring the story and doing the dialogue and making sure, like, I don't know,
because writing for
47
television
minutes.
is not like writing a novel.
It is and it isn't. But yes, the whole idea of it has to be 47 minutes and you have to have this act kind of break. I just don't think that way when I'm writing.
Does Harlan Coben have another bestseller in the works? Plus, we'll break down his unique creative writing process. Stay with us, he's one of the best. We're back with Harlan Coben. Safe is available on Netflix. It's an 8-part series starring Michael C. Hall, and its creator is our guest, Harlan Coben. How many books have you written?
I'm writing my 31st book, believe it or not.
What was your first one?
My first one was called Play Dead. I wrote it in my 20s. And for years, I wouldn't let it back into print. I was just sort of embarrassed by it. But now it's been back in print for a number of years. But I put a letter in the front that says, "Dear reader, this is the first book of mine you're reading. Please put it back. It's not really that good. If you're a completist, read it. If not, just put it back."
Do you always want to be a writer?
Not really. You've interviewed a lot of writers, and they give you that answer like, "Oh, I always knew. When I was a 3-month-old fetus, I was writing sonatas in my mother's womb." I just think that sounds so pretentious. I was in college and I was working a job overseas, and I said, I'd love to write a book about this experience. And so I started to, and it was pretentious and pompous and self-absorbed. But then I started to write what I love, and what I know you love is those books you can't put down, the novel of immersion, the book you take on vacation, but you don't want to leave your room because you have to keep reading it. That's what I started to do.
Why'd you choose mysteries?
I guess you call it mysteries, but it's not. Well, I mean, I don't have anybody die usually. It's usually a missing person. It's usually a story about a family in suburbia and all of that. But I think the thriller angle makes me tell a story. If you think about it, if I asked you to list your favorite books that are over 100 years old, almost all of them have a crime in it. Dostoevsky, Oscar Wilde, Dumas, Hugo, Shakespeare, whatever. So that's sort of following that tradition where I'm not just telling you how brilliant I am or about my life theories and all that. I'm telling you a story you can't put down. And mystery, I don't look at it as a genre, I look at it as a form, like saying haiku. And within that form, I'm able to do all the things I want to do. Redemption, family, loss, love, friendship, whatever it is.
What made it for you? How did the world get to know Harlan Coben? What book?
Tell No One, which frankly, and you were a big part of. You don't, maybe you remember this, maybe you don't, but I released Tell No One 17 years ago. And I remember one of the early things was Larry King mentioned it in his column saying what a terrific book it is. I don't know how you found it. I should ask that.
USA Today. Oh, I love
USA Today.
Yeah. I've read almost all your books. Since then, I've read.
Thank you. That's so flattering. I can't tell you.
The one format you have is surprise.
Thank you.
Right?
Thanks. I always try to twist.
That's part of your gist.
Yeah, I want to fool you.
Something happens. So you get an enjoyment out of that, don't
you? I do. It's hard in this time to still fool people. I mean, Safe is one of my most, the TV show Netflix is one of my most twisted endings. And when I first thought of it, I'm like, can I pull this one off? And I realized, yeah, you can do it. Come on.
Tell me about the process. How do you work?
Again, another beginning and end.
Writing a novel now?
I am. I'm toward the end. And toward the end, if it takes, let's say a novel's 500 pages. So if it takes me about 9 months to write, which it does, after 8 months, I'll maybe be on page 250 maybe halfway through. The last month, I'll write 250 pages. Last week, I wrote 10,000 words, which is 10% of a novel. And I'll write that probably again this week or next week. At the end, when I can see the end, nothing stops me. I just write all day long. But I've been thinking about it and working on it for 9 months.
Become immersed?
Yes.
How important is your editor?
Not to knock my editor, but not very in this process. When I hand in a manuscript, it's pretty clean. His job is to tell me, you know, Myron went to bed, it was Tuesday, he woke up on Thursday, you mean Wednesday. For the most part, when I hand in a manuscript, it's pretty clean. And I don't talk to him about it during the process too much.
The good editor is a reader, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like he's listening to a musical score, and he notices when you hit a wrong note. He shouldn't go, no, change the whole musical score, or here's how you should write it. My best editors tell me when I've done something wrong, but when they're right when they tell me I've done something wrong, they're always wrong when they tell me how to change it. They can signal where the things are not right, but if they give me a suggestion, it's usually wrong.
I hate it sometimes when I get lost in a book.
Yeah.
And I got, where did this guy come from?
Right.
That really disturbs me.
Yeah.
After the break, Harlan Coben's favorite character of all time, the biggest risk he ever took, and where he sees himself in 10 years. It's all in the game of If You Only Knew. Stay with us from New York on this edition of Larry King Now. We're back with Harlan Coben, Safe, on Netflix. You can get all 8 episodes, and if it's Harlan Coben, it's good. You ever have writer's block?
Every day, but it's part of the process. I mean, the thing is, when I have writer's block, I can't say, oh, I'm going to go out shopping or I'm going to go watch a movie. I have to stare at a blank screen until I start to bleed or words come out. I think of it as fear. I think sometimes you get paralyzed by writing because it's scary. Here's the thing. I was talking to Stephen King about this. Stephen King, and he still feels the same way. We always think we suck. I mean, that's the thing. While I'm writing, I said only bad writers think they're good. If you have a writer in here who tells you how great he is or how easy it is, he's lying or he's bad. Trust me. For most of us, it's a struggle. You are insecure. You think it stinks. And so everybody out there who wants to write a book who's listening to this says, wow, that happens to me. Yeah, it's supposed to happen. The difference is we don't stop writing because of it. We write through it. So sometimes I'm writing thinking, oh my God, this is horrible. The next day, but I tell myself, the next day I'm going to rewrite it anyway, so it's okay. And most of the time it's not as bad as I think, or I can rewrite it.
The great sports writer Red Smith said, writing's easy. Put the paper in typewriter, turn it up, and then bleed.
You just got to keep going, man. You just got to keep going.
What writers inspired you?
My favorite writer of all time is Philip Roth, who I don't really write anything like, but maybe it's because we share a lot, the whole Newark, New Jersey experience, though he's a generation ahead of me. If I had to pick one guy, but I'm inspired. The funny thing is when you say inspired, I'm inspired by anything great. So, and not just, I'm also of a generation it's lying to pretend it's just books. Oh, Proust and Yeats and all that nonsense. I was inspired by Hitchcock movies. I'm inspired by Ed Hopper paintings. I'm inspired by Springsteen songs. I'm inspired by a lot of different things. So what I see around me. I was inspired by Batman and Robin TV show in the 60s. All of these things kind of combine into what makes my books work or not work.
Nothing like a good book.
Nothing.
No?
Nothing, man.
Do you have a personal favorite book?
I don't. I usually pick the one that's most recent, which is Don't Let Go. That's both self-serving, but there's a reason for that. And I'll ask you the same thing. Have you ever written something like you wrote it many years ago and you thought it was brilliant, and you find it now and you reread it and go, "Oy, what did that kid know?" So I have the same thing with my old books. The one that's most current is closest to me, so I always like that one the best. I think most people would probably answer Tell No One, which is the breakout book.
Did you have a book you thought couldn't miss and did?
No. Well, I guess any book before I broke out with Tell No One. Darkest Fear, The Final Detail, Fade Away. I kept waiting for the breakout moment. So any book before the breakout, I thought was going to do better than it did.
Since We Fell is out now,
Yeah.
right? What's the new one?
Don't Let Go is out now, and I'm working on one called Runaway, which will be out in March.
Runaway.
Yeah, I'm working on it now. It takes place here in the city. It opens in Central Park at by Strawberry Fields. Watch a father watching a girl, street musician, playing music, and she's all disheveled and on drugs and all of that sort of thing, and he realizes it's his daughter, and that's how the book opens.
Where do ideas come from? We don't know that, do we?
I do and I don't. Sometimes they come from real life. Basically, the secret of fiction writing and getting ideas is to constantly ask, what if? So for example, a few years ago, I wrote a book called Just One Look. And I went to the store to pick up my photos in the days when we used to get them in an envelope. Remember those days, Larry? And I'm going through the pictures, and for a second, just a split second, I thought there was a picture in there I didn't take. And I started asking, well, what if? What if I went and I picked up the photographs, and someone had put a picture in there I didn't take, and it changed my whole life? And I started to think about that. Hours go by. And that's how stories started. And I have done that a lot, where I think of something happens in my real life and I go, well, what if? And that's always the secret.
You ever want to write a political thriller?
Not in this generation, not right now. That would be more like horror and science fiction, I think,
going
right
on now. Yeah.
I mean, you can't match reality in that realm.
We play a little game of If You Only Knew. I just throw some questions at you. What was the first great book you read?
Well, the one that influenced me the most would be Marathon Man by William Goldman. Do you remember that?
Love that book. Love the movie, too.
Yeah. I was 16 years old. My father gave it to me. And this is the first time I had read an adult thriller where I thought to myself, you could put a gun to my head and I won't put this book down. And I think even then subconsciously I said to myself, wouldn't it be a wonderful life? Wouldn't it be a wonderful career if you could be the guy doing that to people?
William Goldman's done all right, too.
He's a wonderful man, too. I've gotten to meet him over the years.
What's the last great book you read?
I just finished the new short story collection by Curtis Sittenfeld, and it was fantastic. I can't recall the title because I'm terrible, but just came out, short stories, Curtis Sittenfeld. She's a wonderful writer. Every story is breathtaking and funny and moving and real.
Short stories are hard. You got to put it all
Yes, and I love short stories. It's a sort of a lost art, but I think it's coming back.
Guilty pleasure.
You know, I'm not a big fan of the term guilty pleasure. If you like it, what do I care if it's guilty pleasure or not?
Writer we should all be paying more attention to.
Boy, that's a tough one. I'm going to pick Alison Galen, who is a crime writer who hasn't yet gotten her due, but is really good. Her stories are really moving.
Secret talent.
I have no talent other than this. This is the only reason I do this is because I can't do anything else, nothing else.
Favorite writer of all time, you said Phil Roth.
Philip Roth.
Favorite novel character of all time?
Alex Portnoy. Well, actually, probably Nathan Zuckerman, because he's in more of Philip Roth's books.
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I'm going to go for just the corny one. I'd like to fly, man. I'm so tired of airports. I'd like to fly like Superman.
I'd like to be invisible.
Oh, geez, that would be interesting. That'd be good for my career because I could then listen in on people.
If you were stuck on a desert island, had only one book to read, what would it be?
I'd ask you for recommendation because I don't reread books. I want something very long because I'm going to be there a while, and something great because I don't read. So why would I bring a book I've already read? I'm going to have my last chance to read a book. I want a brand new experience.
Biggest risk you've ever taken?
When I lost my job back in '92, I guess it was, I decided I had another opportunity to take another job, and I said to my wife, I know it's a risk, but I want to try to do this writing thing full time. At that stage, it was a huge risk. I was making zero money. I think the book before it, I'd made $3,000 advance. So it was a big risk to do that.
Moment you knew you'd made it.
There's two answers to that. One is I still don't necessarily feel like I made it. I know that sounds weird. I think when Hold Tight hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, that was my first of 10 in a row. That was it.
After the break, best-selling author Harlan Coben will answer your questions from social media. And don't forget, Safe is on Netflix. Don't click away. We're back with Harlan Coben. We have a couple of social media questions. Letty Berg on the Larry King Now blog. Which of your characters would you want to be friends with in real life?
Probably, the most obvious answer is Myron Bolitar, who's my serious creation, but he's a little bit too much like me, so I'd probably find him really annoying. I'd say his sidekick, Windsor Horn Lockwood III, who's a little bit too violent, but he'd be a lot of fun to hang and have a beer with.
Letty also asked, do you have a personal favorite novel?
I don't. If I'm doing the Myron Bolatars, probably Fade Away, maybe 6 years. I change my mind every day.
Dylan Thompson on the Larry King Now blog. How did living in New York and New Jersey and those roots influence your writing?
I'm a New Jersey boy, born and bred, and I think there's something about New Jersey. I mean, I would say the three S's: Springsteen, Sopranos, and Sinatra. You know, I think there's something about a chip on your shoulder when you are located between cities like Philly and New York, and you just have this area of people raising their families and trying to do best, and wrong still seeming to find them. And I think it's a fertile ground for creation, which is why so many creatives come from New Jersey.
Jersey Boys.
That's it.
One of the great musicals ever.
You know, I was recently lucky enough to be put into the New Jersey Hall of Fame, and the Four Seasons were put in. Bruce Springsteen was there, little Stevie Van Zandt, but Gloria Gaynor, who I didn't realize was from New Jersey, and Deborah Harry. We were, you know, this is the 10th year, so they've had a lot of people already put in there.
There's a New Jersey Hall of Fame?
Yeah, there's a New Jersey.
Where is it? Where can I go see it?
I think it's a mobile one, and they have part of it, which is just so New Jersey, in Newark Airport, Terminal B.
That's New Jersey.
A mobile one. That's Jersey, right? No respect.
Steve Alpos on Facebook. What is the status of the film adaptation of your book, Fool Me Once? Is Julia Roberts still on board?
Julia Roberts is still on board. You know this better than I do. They tell me very little, so I'm not paying much attention to it, but Julia called me the day the book came out and said how much, and really got it.
Great book.
Thank you so much, and I hope something will happen with very soon. That's what I hear. Something they're working on another version of the script, and they hope to have it done pretty soon.
So that'll be your first American movie.
That would be, yeah.
Maher_James. What's the first thing you do when you set out to write a new book?
So when I finish a book, it's sort of like, if you can imagine, like a boxer, like you're in the 15th round and you can't even lift your hands anymore. There's nothing. You have nothing left. So slowly what I start to do, my brain is empty. I have nothing. I start going to museums. I start walking different streets. I start trying to fill my head with stuff again because there's nothing in there anymore. And I slowly start writing down notes, and they'll make no sense. But this can go on. It can take me 2 or 3 months before asking the what ifs. Again, I'm always asking what if before an idea starts to come to me that I can then live with. But
your family?
I have 4 kids. Yeah, I have 4. They're grown now, or starting to get grown. Their oldest is 24, the youngest is 6, going to be 17 soon.
Well, when they were very young, did they disturb your writing? Writing is a lonely place.
Yeah, I would go out a lot of the house. I would go out of the house a lot. But when they were I would drop them off at school in the morning. I'd go to a local coffee shop. The house was never great for writing because of that.
What's the key to longevity in the business? There are a lot of one-book hits.
I think, you know, we were talking about Michael Connelly and some others that have been around for a while. I also think part of it is that we treat it like a job. It may be an art and all of that, but I don't wait. There's no saying, don't wait for inspiration to, the amateurs wait for inspiration to arrive, the rest of us just get to work. So my dad was a working man. I treat it like I'm a plumber. A plumber can't say, oh, today I'm too important to do sinks. I have to work at it. I have to treat it like a job. I have a deadline. If I miss that deadline, it's like, you know, boss can yell at me. It's kind of a thing, and I treat it like that.
So many people, they want to write a great book, they don't get off the porch.
You have to actually sit and write. That's the
down,
hardest
yeah.
part, man. Hardest part.
Great pleasure.
Nice seeing you, Larry. Thank you so
Love
much.
you.
Thank you. Thanks
Big
so
thanks to my guest, Harlan Coben. Tune in to the newest TV series, Safe. It's now available on Netflix. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.